Let me just make sure I'm capturing what you're saying and just reiterate it from my understanding. We're going to go into the functions in a moment here, but basically you're saying it's not only taking action. So somebody that doesn't do a lot of actions in their life, going out and getting reference experience, they stay in a safe environment or contained environment, they're not setting themselves up to overcome obstacles in their life. Even though they've done that at some point, it's a continual process through our lives to set ourselves up to overcome obstacles and see ourselves do that. And what I also hear you saying is that's not enough. We also have to take an audit and an accounting for that. We need to capture that knowledge and say, yes, I did that. That's something that I can feel confident about in my experience. And if we only have the reference experience, but we don't reflect on it and take an accounting of it, we're only getting half of the benefit. So it's both taking the reference experience, and maybe you're listening right now or watching right now, and all of a sudden you're going, okay, I need to go take more action. I need to go get more reference experiences. I need to get out more and set myself up with challenge and overcome those obstacles and those challenges. Or maybe you're like, man, I'm doing this all the time, but I still struggle with self-confidence. Then your job is to now audit and capture that for review and feel good about it. Check in with yourself and like congratulate yourself and say, look at what I've done. Look at what I've overcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So based on what you just mentioned, which is exactly how it works, the two extroverted perceiving functions. So this would be extroverted sensing or sensation and extroverted intuition or exploration. Their strength is that they tend to go do hard things.
This is the perceiving function used by all perceivers in the Myers-Briggs system. So
Right.
if you have a P at the end of your 4-letter code, you're going to use one of these two.
That's right. And so, and it usually is not based on wanting to challenge oneself. It's usually based on curiosity and precociousness. They will find themselves in all sorts of situations just because they were curious about what would happen if they did. And so the lack is not usually overcoming obstacles, because obstacles are usually in the way of something fun or interesting. So anybody who uses that as a strength is going to have a bias towards action. Even if it's their second function or co-pilot function, they're still going to have that precociousness that encourages them to go do things that maybe other people would say are inadvisable, or that's something that not everybody does, according to other observers of those of these types, actions.
Certainly.
And so that curiosity drives them to overcome obstacles. Their failing is in taking a good accounting. And on the flip side, people who use introverted intuition or perspectives, or introverted sensing or memory as a strength and perception.
These are, by the way, all judgers in the Myers-Briggs system. So if you have a J at the end of your 4-letter code, you'll use one of these two.
Mm-hmm. They are usually better at taking a good accounting, observing themselves go through something, understanding its implications. Their challenge is oftentimes in taking the action itself, or going and doing something that clearly has an obstacle that they have to get around. They usually like a little bit more controlled circumstances. Now, if these functions are in what we call the middle, right, the middle of the cognitive function stack, or the middle of the car, if they're your co-pilot and 10-year-olds, if that's where they live, these descriptions won't seem as extreme to you. You'll say, a little bit of me is good at taking action, and a little bit of me is good at taking an accounting. And so in some ways, you have a bit easier time of doing the full formula. But if they are on the left side of the car model, or if they're your first and fourth function, we call them the driver and the 3-year-old, or they're also known as the dominant and the inferior, you might have you have more of a stratification between these two parts. So these would be, anybody who has them in the first and fourth position would be EP types and IJ types. Anybody who has them in the middle and are a little bit more balanced here are the IP types and the EJ types. But we'll delineate which types we're referring to as we go through each of these functions.